Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. It is time once again for another episode of Midnight's Edge After Dark. With me, as always, is Mr. Tom Connors from Radioactive Cheese Studios. How you doing, Tom?
I'm doing just fine, Rob. How about yourself?
I am fine. I am your narrator supreme, of course, Mr. Rob Robot Shlomo, broadcasting live to tape. Sorry, no live show this week. We still having some scheduling problems. We're going to get that worked out for you people. But I am recording for you good people from Shabby Road Studios and the heart of the Elm City, the fourth most dangerous city in America. Hey, wait, we're working hard to be number one, people. Okay, we're just a few more gangland shootings.
Good to have goals,
yeah. So anyway, we've got news for you. We got news.
Yeah.
We got movie news. We've got more movie news. We've got Disney news. We've got a lot of news for you. Yeah, we've had a loss in the comics world, a very profound loss. Someone whose work you're familiar. Even if you don't know the name, you are familiar with his work and with the character he helped create. Mr. Len Wein, co-creator of Wolverine, has left us. So he was only 69 years old. Very sad. Like I said, if you don't know who he is, you know the character Wolverine.
He also co-created Swamp Thing as well.
And if anyone out there remembers early to mid 80s cable, HBO, you remember that movie with Adrienne Barbeau, Swamp Thing. Not a great movie, but made up for it in certain other aspects. So Len, he was born in New York. He began freelancing at DC Comics around the age of 20. So he had a nice long career.
Right.
And he is, like I said, he's going to be missed. So Len Wein, sadly, has left us at the age of 69.
First podcast of the week, we always touch on the box office gross for the weekend. We don't have the actual final numbers, but we have Sunday night's numbers, so hopefully they don't change too much. There's only one real big movie to talk about, but there's a few things to get into. So we'll start it right off. Stephen King's It just tore through the box office with, so far it's estimated at $117 million. I got to see it this weekend. I'll post my review down below if you want to check it out. It was pretty good. We'll get into it some other time as far as like some spoiler talk and stuff like that, I'm sure. I know Rob's not the biggest horror fan, so I'm sure he doesn't plan on seeing it anytime soon. But did you happen to see the original miniseries back in 1990? Or
I've never seen the complete miniseries, but I've seen parts of it, and it just seemed I couldn't. On the surface, I'm like, yeah, okay, well, killer clown in the sewer. That's, I guess it's kind of terrifying, but I think there's a lot of other things in the sewer that are more terrifying. And I gotta ask, how long would it be before the alligators got him?
Well, I'm sure the alligators are probably more scared of him, but no, the newer one is okay. I'm a big fan of the book. Grew up with the miniseries, so I mean, just go ahead and check out my review, and you can kind of get a basic idea how I felt about it. But I was surprised at how packed it was. But I'll tell you right now, you teenagers, if you're going to go to the theater, don't talk through the whole goddamn movie.
Oh my god, oh, this clown, he's like totally not scary at all. Oh my god, oh no. Hold on, I have to text Melissa. OMG at the killer clown movie, totally not scary, hashtag stupid. So.
But no, I was like about to turn around. I'm like, Jesus Christ, if I wanted to listen to the audio commentary, I would have waited for the fucking Blu-ray. But no, finally some guy near me said, turn around and goes, could you guys shut up? Because yeah, there's like 3 teenagers that just would not shut the fuck up, commenting on everything. I mean, they weren't saying nothing negative, or he's just like, oh, this is this and this is that, and I remember this and I seen that and that. Just stupid shit. Like, dudes, you don't even know, first of all, what the fuck you're talking about. Second of all, shut the fuck up. And then another thing I seen at this theater, and I could not believe this, people, do not take your fucking kids to this movie. I seen a couple in there, not just one, but like 2 or 3 couples in there with kids that are probably in the 3 to 4 age group. And this is a perfect way to traumatize your fucking kids.
You know, I did a video about movie theater etiquette, and I said that is one of the big problems.
Right.
People take small children to theaters, and even a small child at something like the Peanuts movie, or even at the Emoji movie.
Right, let's say
or
like
even
it's the fucking Minions. It's Stephen King's It. It's about a killer clown who kills kids.
Yeah, exactly. And this has been a problem for years, too. And this is one of the things that soured me on going to the movies.
Well, it's one of those things some people say, well, sometimes they may not really understand that it's not. No, fuck you. You know this movie is not meant for kids.
One of the things I always say is being a parent requires some sacrifices, okay? And a night out at the movies is one of those things you have to sacrifice. My parents, for years, didn't get a chance to go out and go to a movie because they had kids, okay? You know, and with a high turnover rate, you can really not. You can sacrifice a night out.
Well, not only that, you can't sit there and say, "Oh, I can't afford it," because turn around and even if you're paying for a children's ticket, it's still quite a bit compared to just pay the fucking babysitter. You know?
I know, yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Or give grandma a call, something, you know. Just don't be, especially to movies like this. It's just, anyway.
Inappropriate.
Now, we're getting off track here, but that really bothered me, and I want to bring it up. I know I'm not talking about the movie so much. The movie was good. I can recommend it. I had a lot of personal issues with it. I gave it a fairly average recommendation. So go see it if you're a horror fan. The thing I think that's going to turn the general audience off is, especially if you're not a general horror fan, there's a lot of horror tropes in there that might bother you. But even if you are a horror fan, you might be sick of them. Otherwise, the movie's great. The kids are great. The actors are. Bill Skarsgård's okay in it. The thing with Pennywise that really bothered me, like, okay, you've seen bits and pieces of the original. You know how Tim Curry, he's funny and he's goofy and he pulls the kids in through being charming and all that kind of shit. And then he turns scary. Okay? This Pennywise is scary from the start. And I don't understand that, because what kid's going to get near this ugly fucker in the first place? Because, I mean, his just appearance from the very start looks nasty. So it's like, I don't know what they were aiming for with that either, but otherwise the movie's good. So yeah, anyway.
Okay.
But the box office otherwise, Home Again came in second place. That's the Reese Witherspoon romantic comedy that's out right now. A little counter programming.
You know, there's not many rom-coms being released lately. Usually there's a ton of them. I mean, but you don't see too many of them anymore.
Right, and sure, it only did just under $10 million, but hey, it's going up against It. And it's a romantic comedy, so I'm sure it didn't cost no more than, 20-25 million, maybe that to make, if that. So it'll probably do all right. It's good to see that kind of stuff. Hitman's Bodyguard coming at third. Annabelle Creation coming at fourth. Fifth place was Wind River. Leap came in at sixth. Spider-Man Homecoming came in at seventh. Interesting thing about Spider-Man Homecoming. It pulled out ahead of Wonder Woman in the worldwide box office. And I vaguely remember saying that was going to happen, and there was certain people who didn't agree with me. So yeah. Anyway, Dunkirk came in at 8th. 9 was Logan Lucky. Number 10 was the damn Emoji Movie that just won't go away.
Who knew the Emoji Movie had such staying power? Jeez. Okay, now we don't want to talk about that anymore. Next on the agenda.
Yeah. So we talked a little bit about the box office. We talked about It. You watched the Orville. I watched the Orville tonight as we're recording this. It's Sunday night. So I thought it was pretty fucking good. I was surprised. Out of all the Seth MacFarlane stuff I've seen, this is my favorite so far. I actually had laughed a lot.
I got to see the first half. I haven't watched the second half of it because I tuned over to the Sunday night NFL game, the Giants and the Cowboys.
You've been better off watching Orville from what I've seen of that. But Jesus.
God, it's what a stinker of a game. But anyway, especially because I'm a Giant fan. But anyway,
as a Packer fan, I sure as fuck wasn't rooting for the Cowboys, so I feel for you, man. All right. Anyway.
Thanks.
Yeah.
But
right?
anyway, but anyway, from what I saw, the Orville, I'm like, where are these bad reviews coming from?
Right?
This is pretty good. I'm like, yeah, I don't know what's going on here. I'm like, this reminds me more of Star Trek than Star Trek.
It got the tone right. The design was, I mean, yeah, it's that soft colored, everything's round and soft. There's no sharp edges on anything. It's that comedy type feel to it. But it also feels like you said, a Star Trek. And even the way the story goes is like a Star Trek episode. But they managed to mix the dry humor into that Star Trek tone in just such a perfect way that I was surprised, because I'm not really that big. I've said it before, but if this is like your first time listening or you haven't heard me say it, I'm not that big of a Seth MacFarlane fan. Andre and you are. I'm just not that big of a fan. I think he's okay. I've liked some of the stuff he's done, but I like, say, American Dad more than I did Family Guy, for instance. Couldn't stand Ted 2, thought Ted was okay, but didn't think the West movie was that great. They ruined most of the best jokes in the previews. So anyway, point being, I was fucking surprised at how much I laughed at this show. I can tell it because it was probably like it reminded me a lot of his Star Wars parodies for Family Guy, where you can tell he loves Star Wars. You can tell by watching this, he loves Star Trek. The details are there. The characters are there. The jokes work. It's well casted. The effects are actually well done for a comedy. The makeup is really well done for a comedy. The characters are fairly memorable. I'm pleasantly surprised. I mean, I'm glad to see that it came together. So hopefully the show stays at this level, because I mean, I laughed pretty much through the whole show. I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, I'm hoping now it gets the ratings to justify
exactly. Yeah.
What they call a back nine pickup, where that it will get an additional. Because right now it has a 12 episode order. I'm hoping it'll get at least another, like I said, in the back 90, so it'll get a 21 episode season out of it. But like I said, I'm not understanding what the hatred for this show is. I mean, it was marketed as a comedy. It was marketed as a comedy, and wrongfully so. But seeing this, I'm like, it's a science fiction space adventure show.
The Simpsons is like watching a slow train wreck happen for the last 20 years or 10 years or so. And Gotham is just kind of like I'm watching a soap opera that takes place in Gotham. So I just got to see what happens next, kind of thing. At this point, it's kind of gone way overboard into ridiculous land, but it's just like I got to see what the fuck they do next, kind of thing. Other than that, I don't really watch anything on Fox, so I was just like, yeah, I'll give it a shot. And I was surprised. I hope, like you said, hopefully it gets the ratings, because otherwise it won't live long, but it'll be one of those shows that's probably fondly remembered and have a cult following, if not like Briscoe County Jr. or something like that if it doesn't. Otherwise, it could be just like all of his other shows and live on for quite a long time. You never know.
Do you think this could work as a movie?
It felt like a movie almost at first. Once it actually kind of got to that formalic, about halfway through it got to that formalic episode kind of thing, episodic kind of feeling, but the first half of it really felt like we were getting the intro to a movie. Like we're, and I don't get where, I get where you could kind of compare it to Galaxy Quest, but Galaxy Quest's humor and the humor in this show are two completely different monsters. Because everybody's playing it straight in this period. In Galaxy Quest, the aliens were all straight. It was, you know, the Earthlings that were the goofy part of the show. You know, they were like trying to get their heads wrapped around all this shit's real and that kind of shit. You don't have that kind of a humor here. The tone is within the show. It's within the characters, yeah.
The actors, Tim Allen and Sigourney Weaver, their characters, they were not in on the joke.
Right.
That's so there was that confusion, like, what the hell is going on?
The fish
I can't
out of
believe
water thing,
what I'm seeing. Yeah, and in this, everybody is sort of playing along. Okay, yeah, they're, you know what I mean?
Right, and that's what I was getting to, is like, because in Galaxy Quest, all the aliens, all the monsters, all the ships, all the technology, all that shit seems real and like something right out of Star Trek, and it kind of does here too, don't get me wrong, but like you said, everything still has that tongue-in-cheek part of it to where it's like, okay, I get that. I get why that's that way. And everything has its own little gimmick or joke to it, don't get me wrong. There was some parts and some jokes that kind of fell flat, but for the most part, for like every 4 jokes, you know, if 2 or 3 of them land, you're doing all right, and that's kind of where it was at with me. So I think it did all right.
Yeah. So definitely looking forward to seeing more of this. Yeah.
So yeah, moving on.
Okay. Yeah, moving on.
Big news. We did get the rumors that popped out, like with the Han Solo movie after Lord and Miller were let go. The rumor went around that they just weren't clicking with the vibe going on, and they were doing too much improvisation, and it was driving a bunch of the higher ups just nuts. We got a different kind of report here for Colin Trevorrow, who was just let go or left Star Wars Episode 9. Kind of similar, a little bit different. The rumor going around, though, is that he was difficult. Quote right out of the Vulture article. During the making of Jurassic World, he focused a great deal of his creative energies in asserting his opinion, the executive explains. But because he had been personally hired by Spielberg, nobody could say you're fired. Once that film went through the roof, he had chose to do Henry, and it was unbearable. He had an egotistical point of view and was always asserting that. So, he was also reportedly unmanageable and kept redoing the script, I guess.
Oh boy.
And then the report goes on to say when the review for Book of Henry came out, there was immediately conjecture that Kathy was going to dump him because they weren't thrilled with working with him anyway. The executive continues. He's a difficult guy. He's really, really, really confident. Let's call it that. Okay. So we kind of called this back then when Book of Henry kind of flopped. There was rumors going around that they might dump Trevorrow from Episode 9, and obviously that came to be. And we also kind of figured out a couple days after this happens, we're probably going to hear some rumors on what the reasons were for the departure. Rob, what's your take on this?
Sounds like he's an asshole.
Sounds like a prima donna, yeah.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, it sounds, yeah. He wants everything his way. I'm like, and he won't listen to anybody's input. And it sounds, there's a difference between, I always say there's a difference between being confident and being an asshole. And sure enough, assholery is what we have here.
Well, and at the bottom of the article here in Vulture, it says there's one gatekeeper when it comes to Star Wars, and it's Kathleen Kennedy, says the veteran movie producer who they're interviewing for this. I don't think they name him at all, or her. But anyway, it goes on to say that there's a gatekeeper when it comes to Star Wars, and it's Kathleen Kennedy. If you rub Kathleen Kennedy the wrong way in any way, you're out. You're done. A lot of these young new directors want to come in and say, I want to do this, I want to do that. A lot of these guys, Lord and Miller, Colin Trevorrow, got very rich very fast and believed a lot of their own hype. And they don't want to play by the rules. They want to do shit differently. And Kathleen Kennedy isn't going to fuck around with that. Unquote.
Hey, that is inappropriate touching, okay?
But no, and there's a lot of people who want to dump on Kathleen Kennedy, and it sounds to me like she's trying to nip this shit in the bud. And I totally understand it.
Somebody's got to be the boss. Somebody's got to be the person to say, hey, get this, hey, make sure this shit gets done.
We're not making Book of Henry. We're making Star Wars.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to see a 2.5 hour character study on a Jawa,
right?
You know? So somebody's got to keep everybody in line. Somebody's got to keep all the ducks in a row, and that falls to Kathleen Kennedy. Yeah, if somebody's, you play by, it's her baby. You play by her rules.
But at the same time, and we've said this before, what is the problem here that between Kennedy and Disney and all these people that they can't seem to find the directors they need to do these projects? So they turn to, okay, let's take this back to Gareth Edwards, because reportedly after Rogue One was done, they had reshoots and had edited the film without Edwards being involved. And then Miller and Lord are out, and they bring in veteran director Ron Howard, Who do you think, and this is the one that if there's been a lot of names thrown around and we've talked a little bit about it right now, but who do you think are probably the front runners right now to take Trevorrow's place?
I think Rian Johnson is...
That's the name that keeps going around.
And even though he's working on Chronicles of Narnia film, I would like to see Joe Johnston because he's done some excellent work. I absolutely love what he did with Captain America.
And he's a Star Wars veteran.
And he's a Star Wars veteran. Actually, he's worked on Indiana Jones as well. He knows his way around action adventure. He knows how to achieve a stylized look. Like I said, just as long as people don't say Christopher Nolan, because I've had enough of him. I really have.
The buzz around the water cooler is they're waiting for at least the first cut of The Last Jedi from Rian Johnson, and then they're going to make their decision. I think they already made their decision because, like Andre said before, with the whole Miller and Lord thing, we're going to find out soon, and we did find out soon. It wasn't only but a couple days after the announcement that they had been let go that we had Ron Howard stepping in to take over. There's a lot of names that keep coming up as possibilities. I think they're going to go with another veteran. And I think from here on out, you're going to see a lot more veteran directors step in probably than these young bucks, because I think that what this article is kind of stating here and pointing out is that they're not having much luck with some of these younger directors. Unless they get the Russo brothers, which the Russo brothers have seemed to work well with Disney's thus far, with Marvel, however you want to put it. So they obviously know how to work within the system. And let's, like we were kind of saying, you know, if you're doing your own independent story or you're kind of kicking off like a big idea, sure, you want to let the director have a little bit more leeway. But when it comes to something like Marvel, Star Wars, DC, any of these franchises, you got to have a strong singular vision, and you got to have somebody who's making a lot of decisions. That's why you have Kathleen Kennedy. That's why you have Kevin Feige. So yes, in a lot of ways, this does fall on Kathleen Kennedy's shoulders as far as responsibility in a lot of ways. But I think from here on out, we're probably going to see a lot more veteran directors come in instead of the young ones, because they don't want to see this keep happening.
And you don't want anybody who's going to make a stupid decision either. That's the other thing. You want somebody with a singular vision who you can trust.
Right, and you got lucky with Rogue One. You know, there's a lot of people who are skeptical on how Han Solo is going to turn out. You and I think, both kind of agreed. With Ron Howard in charge now, it's a good chance it might not be at least a mess. It might be watchable or something, you know.
Speaking of movies that are going to be a mess,
move along.
Perfect segue.
Right? Venom, that keeps popping up and popping up and popping up. We kind of called that this was going to happen. Venom's production has supposedly been delayed until fall. Several reports are saying that the Spider-Man spinoff has been pushed back. It was supposed to begin production already September 1st, but that didn't happen. Sony, again, had claimed that this movie was going to be out in October of next year. I think that's not going to happen in less than a year. So, of course, the date's going to get pushed back, if it even happens at all. There's a lot of people who think that this is all just a ploy from Sony to try and work something out with Disney on the Spider-Man rights. And we've talked about that too before. What do you think, Rob?
Yeah, it's them hedging seems it's not a huge delay, but at the same time, it's enough of a delay to make me think that something else is going on.
Right, and they got to be pretty. Don't get me wrong. They've got to be pretty far through pre-production to be ready, to have been even close to being ready to film by September 1st. So I'm sure they're pretty far along, but something is holding up the production, or there's a reason why they're stalling it. It could be something simple, but this is just another red flag that we keep getting more and more red flags all the time when it comes to this movie. I don't get it.
Yeah, well, I don't get it either. Like I said, it's an unnecessary movie, but they're determined to do something with it. So, you know, they don't seem to want to learn.
Well, the Ruben Fleischer of Zombieland and Gangster Squad is still set to direct, and of course Tom Hardy is still set to star as Eddie Brock. There's very little known. We've kind of been told that, of course, Carnage is going to be in the film. There was this back and forth earlier this year about whether or not it was going to be part of the MCU or not, and then finally Kevin Feige came out and cleared things up and said, no, it will not be a part of the MCU. So it'll be interesting to see what yeah, right. It'll be interesting to see what happens. I think there's a lot of curiosity factor around this, but otherwise I don't think a lot of people want to see this happen outside of the MCU, I think is the consensus I'm getting on that.
Well, there's this whole segment of Marvel fans or comic book fans in general that kind of think, oh, Venom's cool, Venom is so badass. I'm like, actually he's kind of lame if you think about it. He's just an extreme version of Spider-Man gone bad, really. So, well,
and that's just it. That's the point I keep bringing up is how can you do this character without Spider-Man? It just, you have to come up with some convoluted background or take away any of his powers that are related to Spider-Man, and even the look, he kind of emulates a darker version of Spider-Man. So it's kind of tough to do this character without Spider-Man. I don't know. Anyway, there's so many rumors flying around about this.
Yeah, well, speaking of tough to do,
Space, the final frontier. These are Captain Robb's logs.
okay, so we haven't done one of these in a while because actually the Star Trek news has been kind of on the lean side, but
we figured
Sonequa Martin. Yeah, we figured it was going to take off the sooner we get to the premiere of Discovery.
And now Sonequa Martin, of course, as you were going to say, is out on the interview circuit promoting the show. And why don't you tell us a little bit about that, Rob?
Yeah, Sonequa Martin Green, she's been doing some promotional appearances for Discovery. She has been on two notable programs. She's been on CBS This Morning, and she has been on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. And both instances, both shows, they have told her they have not gotten a hold of a preview episode. Colbert says they're keeping it tight under wraps, and Gail King on the CBS This Morning has said they were unable to get a preview episode. And actually, more interesting, CBS This Morning let it slip that this was actually a reboot.
Well, it's not so much that they let it slip that it was a reboot. I think they're having a moment of, is it a pre-boot? Is it a prequel? Is it a reboot? Because they said it's a prequel. Here, we'll play the two little clips here.
The newest TV reboot, prequel. The newest TV reboot, prequel.
Yeah, and as you hear there, they don't seem to know what they're fucking talking about, or if it was a slip. I don't know, because you got to imagine the higher-ups were completely in charge as far as what was going to be said about the show.
Yeah. I think there's confusion across the board, like I said, because they are keeping a very tight lid on everything related to the show, all details, and the few...
Fake news.
Yeah, total fake news. The failing Star Trek Discovery is totally crashing and burning. Total fake news.
Well, and it makes us look bad because half the time we're reporting so much of this shit as it's rumor because we can't pin a lot of this shit down, but there's so much of it and none of it adds up. We found so much stuff where they're either trying to cover stuff up or they're trying to back talk on stuff, or like this incident here where they call it both a prequel and a reboot. Well, we already know it's a prequel, but obviously if you're going to call it a reboot right off the top, you're not hiding that fact.
Yeah, and CBS This Morning, they actually, in the description of the video on YouTube, they actually say new Star Trek reboot in the description.
As of this recording, it still says that too.
Yeah. So we'll probably have a screen grab for you up there. So, yep. But the only things that we know for sure are that Sonequa Martin Green is playing Spock's adopted sister. She grew up on Vulcan. She went to the Vulcan Learning Academy, and Sarek, and just the basic, the few nuts and bolts they've actually managed to leak, and she talks a lot about the diversity. Oh, we have a diverse cast, and it's inspirational. All the talking points, which obviously it looks like she's being coached on.
We're not saying that there isn't a few trolls out there who are saying nasty shit about the show, but we've literally only been able to find like 4 or 5 tweets about this shit as far as like the actual racism goes. We are pretty much all under the consensus here and believe that CBS is pushing a narrative that they're being
unfairly they're being treated unfairly, and that the fans are the backlash, and the fan backlash is completely and totally motivated by racism, misogyny, and homophobia, or whatever, which it is not.
Right.
Which it really is.
Which is bullshit,
not.
yeah, because the show has always been about diversity, and that's not an issue. The fact that you're grandstanding about it or virtue signaling about it is what's rubbing a lot of people the wrong way. Otherwise, it's like this is not. It shouldn't be a big deal. We just want a good show.
Yeah.
You know, and then they're also making a big deal about the LGBT character, and you know, she talked also a little bit about her relationship with Spock's father and how that all comes about. And we pretty much predicted how that was. Her family's killed by Klingons, and she's on a Vulcan outpost, I guess, or something like that is what she said. And she's appointed to Sarek to be cared for, and he raises her. So, you know, there's that aspect we kind of figured before, and we were right about. I guess we hear in a couple of weeks what happens as far as if the show is any good or not, and then if it actually translates over to CBS All Access, because they're banking a lot on this, you know?
And I actually, I posed the question and in the Midnight's Edge Facebook group. It just seems like CBS, they have a lot of confusion about this show, and I keep hearing from a lot of, I don't even call them critics, but a lot of self-appointed pundits who say, oh, only old people watch CBS, and only old people watch television, and even though CBS is the most watched network, it's all people that are old and watch 60 Minutes, and that's another narrative they're driving. Oh, and this will drive millennials toward their streaming service by having a popular series like this on CBS All Access, and this is good for millennials. I'm like, okay, here's the thing. You're telling me that CBS is for old people. Okay, you're telling me that the network is old people watch the network, and you want millennials to sign up for CBS All Access. So you're doing that by having a 50-year-old science fiction series on as the crown jewel of your streaming access that already has a pre-existing fan base, and whose pre-existing fan base you are pissing the hell off by not adhering to anything in that the show's previous history. That's your plan.
So yeah, it's a big old clusterfuck. And speaking of streaming services, this will kind of segue perfectly into our next story, but just to kind of finish this off, I mean, they basically are figuring they got to get at least 2 to 4 million new subscribers to keep this going once this happens. And frankly, we don't see a lot of people signing on to yet another streaming service, especially mainly just for Star Trek.
Yeah.
I don't see the numbers going that far, especially in this day and age when it's so easy for, you know, pirating and all that kind of shit, even though we don't condone it or anything like that. We're just saying, you know, it's inevitable that we just don't see CBS get numbers that they plan on getting, and that's just subscribers. You got to stop and think about this. For a show to be a hit on network television, they need a hell of a lot more viewers than that. So
yeah, and whether you like it or not, actually, The Big Bang Theory still pulls in 8 to 12 million viewers
and
per
that's
episode.
Per episode. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And they're looking at hoping to get half that number just to subscribe for an entire service. I mean, Star Trek isn't even the only thing that's going to be on there, so I don't see how economically this is going to work.
No, that's actually right. And like we keep pointing out, the CW would have been a much more natural fit for this, because a network like the CW, whereas you would need, let's just say, anywhere from 6 to 8 million, you really need 5 million and up, really, live, what they call live viewers, to be a hit
for a big show like that.
Yeah, last year, The Amazing Race at 10 p.m. on Thursday pulled in roughly around 5 million viewers an episode.
Right.
And that's at Thursday at 10. So, and a network like the CW really only needs about 2 million to be considered a hit.
And, I mean, sure, the budget probably wouldn't have been as big and stuff like that, but still.
But that forces you to be more creative, too.
Right.
So, I will admit, it looks spectacular. The visual quality of the show, really, it looks top-notch. And that's another thing. Sonequa Martin Green has been saying everybody's on their A game. I'm like, well, yeah, everybody's on their A game behind the scenes, but is the end result going to be any good? That's the thing.
Well, not only that, it looks so much like Kelvin Timeline, and they're still adamant that this is in Prime Timeline, and that's very true, I guess, in a way. But which Prime? It just doesn't look that way, and it doesn't make any goddamn sense. So we'll have to wait and see. So unless there was anything else you had to say on Trek news, yeah.
Nah, and I think we can close the captain's log for time being.
All right, so then speaking of streaming services, Disney. This was something we did talk about before. It was starting their own streaming service, and it was up in the air as far as certain things that were going to happen. The only thing we kind of knew for sure at that point was the Marvel Netflix shows were going to stay put for the time being and run their course. We did know at that time that all the main Disney movies and stuff like that were going to eventually get pulled. I think they have a contract up through 2019 or 2018, something 2019. Like that. Yeah. Anyway, so then the question was though, because Netflix was desperately trying to hang on to the Star Wars and Marvel rights from Disney, and we have our answer.
Oh, hey Netflix, you can suck my fat one. Huh?
Oh yeah. So they're not going. They have decided to take Star Wars and Marvel with them to their brand new streaming service, and of course we were just bitching about CBS All Access and their service. Of all the streaming services, this is the only one I see kind of making it. It's going to be an uphill battle for them, don't get me wrong. But if they start out strong with all the shit that they've got going for them, when the dust settles, I think Disney will be one of the only ones of these, whatever you want to call them, solo or exclusive streaming services that are going to last. What do you think, Rob?
I definitely think. Well, here's the thing: Disney is an empire unto itself. Okay. Exactly. And if anybody can do this, Disney will make sure this will not fail. And there are people out there who will buy Disney anything.
Never underestimate the power of the mouse ears.
Let me tell you, hey Bezos, you can suck it, okay? That's my horrible Mickey Mouse impression.
We get told that we're Disney shills all the time, and that's bullshit. I wish we had Disney money. We're so small, Disney could give a fuck about us.
If I was a Disney shill, if I was shilling for Disney, I'd be driving a much better car, believe me.
Not only that, yeah, we wouldn't have been talking about those Star Wars rumors we were just talking about either. So yeah.
Please, like, I got a 20-year-old Volvo that I'm driving. I'm like, yeah.
Right, I'm driving a van that barely can stay on the road. Yeah.
If Disney wanted to pony up some cash, believe me, I'd tell them. I'd be more than happy to tell them where to send a few checks. Okay.
Right. No shit. So yeah.
I'm just thinking now of Cartman, just like when he's rolling around that big pile of money. Suck my balls, you know.
Suck my balls. All right. So what do you think? How much you want to bet we get like some more Star Wars shows right away?
Yeah. We're probably gonna get a new Clone Wars show. We're probably gonna get a new Rebel show. We're probably gonna get a new whatever. We're probably gonna get some spin-off shows from the anthology movies. We're probably gonna get. We might even get like that. Remember the old CBS animated series Droids on Saturday morning? Yeah. We might even get that.
Because once they start digging into the vaults of all the stuff that they own, and you know this is just it makes financial sense. If there is ever going to be a company besides maybe Warner Brothers who could pull this off, it'd be them. But do I see it working? They got a good chance. That's about where I'm at, I guess. And we'll have to wait and see how they roll it out.
We'll probably also get a brand new version of the Mickey Mouse Club, updated version.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of figuring.
All the kids will be sitting around texting.
OMG.
Yeah. All right.
Oh, shit. Speaking of Disney and Marvel, there's a rumor going around, reported from our good friends over at Heroic Hollywood, who was one of the places that was talking about it. We might get a Rocket Raccoon origin story. I'm not totally against this. It probably might be prequel from where we met him in Guardians of the Galaxy. The big rumor was, I think a lot of this report comes from James Gunn himself, who's at a con this weekend. I can't remember where it was.
I think it was probably Dragon Con. Was that it?
Something like that. Yeah, but he says it's going to be a little different from the comics. We already know a lot from where he came from. It's a little bit more horrible than what was in the comics when you come down to it. We will learn more about that. So the rumor is or what they're kind of saying is that, of course, we're going to learn a little bit more about Rocket in the third Guardians of the Galaxy film. And then chances are he'll have his own kind of spin-off thing, which makes sense because obviously it's the cheapest way of going about spinning any of the characters off of Guardians of the Galaxy on their own. I'd love to see like a Howard the Duck, Groot, and Rocket Raccoon movie or something like that. I mean, I heard you growling at first, Rob, and if it's a prequel, I don't like going backwards either, but I think Rocket's a very versatile character, and so is Groot.
Yeah.
So,
well, Rocket is a good character. Rocket is a really good character, and he kind of needs another character to play off of. That's my only concern. That of hour 45-minute, 2-hour movie just with Rocket driving the action might get kind of boring, unless he has other people there to, I don't want to say prop him up, unless he has other people there to sort of be the catalyst for whatever happens.
Well, I'm sure, obviously we'll get to see how he meets Groot, see how he's torn apart and put back together and all that kind of stuff. And that'll be the kickoff of the story. And then when we meet him in Guardians of the Galaxy, he's obviously like a bounty hunter. So that's probably what they'll start out as him, it'll be kind of like a midnight run kind of thing, probably.
Yeah.
He'll have a bounty to go after, and, maybe it'll be Groot.
Okay, everybody out there, if you have if you want to see a prequel to this movie, just go outside in your yard and take a look and see if there's a raccoon digging around your trash can. That's your Rocket prequel.
Oh shit! It's a trash panda.
No, raccoons literally are related to pandas. So that's yes, yeah. But anyway, like I said, it could work, but I'm cautiously ambivalent, I guess.
Well, it's one of those things. I think it could work. I'm not against it. I'm not going yay or anything like that. And let us know what you guys think down below, and let us know what you guys think about any of the other stories we talked about today or tonight, whenever you're listening to this.
And if Disney wants us to get more behind a Rocket movie, like I said, you know where to send payments to. Just
yeah, I'll send you my bank account number, and you can fill it.
Well, yeah, we direct deposit. And we'll be we'll be more on
board. We do take
with
PayPal.
PayPal. Square trade, just whatever forms of paper. Paper bags full of money. So that'll do. Yeah, left behind Smitty's bar.
All right. So we weren't going to take any questions this week because we had so much shit to talk about. You were just on the Red Shirt podcast, which will be coming up, I believe, later on this week. Once we get that going, or once they get that up, we'll post a link down below on this episode. Tell us a little bit about that, Rob.
Actually, yeah, the Red Shirts are very cool guys. They invited me on to be their They invited me on to their podcast. I recorded that this past Saturday. It should be up by this coming Thursday. If you're on Facebook, please stop by their Facebook page, give it a like, and if you're an iTunes user, please subscribe to their podcast and leave them a rating and a review. That helps them out a lot, actually. And tell them Midnight's Edge sent you. So, like I said, I'm definitely looking forward to that. Like I said, we had a lot of fun recording it, which was good. Very informative. I brought a lot of information that they really didn't know before. We recorded for maybe about 90 minutes or so. So it was actually, it was a good time.
That's cool. All right, yeah, take your time. If you've never checked it out yet, go ahead and check it out. We've got a Patreon. There's all kinds of exclusive content there. We've had an alien documentary up there early for a little while now. That'll be coming on soon here on the main channel, but if you want to check that out a little early, and it's a uncut form, it's up there, along with all kinds of other good stuff. Isn't that right, Rob?
That's right. And just remember, if you guys support us through Patreon, then we wouldn't have to take that Disney money.
I'm going to Disneyland.
Yeah. I remember that song. But no, we have several tiers for as far as Patreon supporters, and each tier has a different bonus to it. So I believe if you donate to the top tier is actually a limited edition Blu-ray DVD, which we're working on. So
first one that we're doing if you're a member now, we'll be giving away will be the not giving away because you got to do the Patreon thing, but is all the Fantastic Four documentaries, the reviews, anything related to Fan Four Stick will be on that Blu-ray, and I'm sure we'll have all kinds of neat little extras on there. So yeah, if you want to take advantage of that, go ahead and hop on there and be one of our top tier subscribers, and you could be a part of that. And of course there'll be more down the line in the future. We'll move on down the road, of course, to Ghostbusters and all that kind of stuff and so on.
And actually, I don't know which tier it is, but you will get the Behind the Edge documentaries.
That's right.
Access to those. You get to hear the thrilling story about how Andre found me derelict in the street behind a strip club in Oslo. He gave me a card that says Jesus saves. And,
needle in your arm.
Needle in my arm.
On the other one.
Yeah, pimp hounding me for the $20 that he said he owes his best girl Ingrid. I mean, so. It was a tragic story, ladies and gentlemen. It's really, really tragic. But I did manage to turn my life around, and I accepted Jesus Christ.
That's right. You moved up in the world. You went from heroin to cocaine.
Yes. So yeah, and it will be, like I said, you donate to that level of Patreon, and I can actually take up an addiction, beat it, and then write the tell-all document.
That's right. And then you can go to the Betty Ford Clinic and check that out. And of course, if you're not already a subscriber, why aren't you a subscriber? Subscribe to us and hit that little bell icon, because if you don't hit that bell icon, the YouTube won't let you know when we have uploaded new videos. So if you don't do that, then you won't know.
It's like that old Donna Summer song, "Ring My Bell."
That's right.
So one more time, you are
Tom Connors,
and I am Mr. Rob Robot Shlomo, your narrator supreme. Thank you for joining us once again for the Midnight's Edge After Dark podcast. We will see you all later.